You'll find us. I'll look for anyone. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Let's call to order the Executive Committee for the Cities Association meeting of February 27, 2025 at 4:40 p.m. Shelley, can we have a roll call?
Certainly. Larry Klein,
Present.
Tina Warner,
Present.
J.R. Fruin, Elliot Scazola,
Here.
Lisa Fleiger. We have quorum with 4 members.
Thank you very much. Next up is oral communications. This portion of the meeting is a chance for the public to comment on items that are not on our agenda today. Do we have any members of the public in the room or online to speak?
No one on.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our main agenda. First up is our consent agenda. It's just the approval of the minutes from our February 3rd meeting. Are there any changes, comments?
So moved.
Are there any?
Correction? And I made the correction on the correct minutes.
Can you, sorry.
Rather than 13th March, it should be 13th February for the.
On the minutes.
On the minutes.
Yes.
Ah, okay, thank you. Is there any other public in the room or remote to
No.
speak? Thank you. Is there a motion?
Amended motion. So moved with the amendment expressed by.
Director.
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you. I think you can have the roll call or the vote.
Motion to approve the minutes with the amendment, but change the date on the minutes, was made by Fleiger, seconded by Walia. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. Next up is the president update. So it's been a busy month. You know, it's kind of interesting. We're now, 5 weeks into the new presidential administration, and lots of things happening within this organization and within the county. But I do think that, and I just want to say, I really appreciate what, having the county executive here last month. I do think that was worthwhile. And, for what we've been doing and having, I think there's a lot of fear, even amongst our organizations, that reflects the fear that our residents are feeling. So I do think it's been worthwhile to have, that update. And as we go forward, trying to figure out, it's not to the level of COVID where we're meeting every week. But I do think that having those monthly kind of updates on what's going on, I was on a U.S. Conference of Mayors seminar earlier today, talking about bonds and conceivably what we might lose, and depending upon what's approved at the federal level. And so I think having that part of the discussion, I think, is really important. And that's what I see that's what this organization is there for, especially having now all 15 cities in the county are at that table. I think it's important to make sure that we're focusing on, that bigger picture. And it's not that we don't have our laundry list of priorities for the specific year, but I think that impending effect of financials is conceivably affecting all this in certain ways. So that's pretty much my update. I think, we're still starting to plan the year, I think, so far. And we still have questions maybe about a board member or two. But I think in general, it's going to be an interesting year, not to the level of COVID, but should be good for that. No comment. I don't need to take public. Do I need to take public comment on?
I don't think so.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay.
And did anyone have any comments or about the years? Okay.
No, I agree.
Okay.
It's great having you.
Next up is item 3, review draft fiscal year 2025-2026 budget discussion and possible action. Shelley and Director Scazola.
So you have 2 handouts in front of you. One of them has the budget that we adopted for 2025 compared to the year-to-date actuals, which is really just the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year. And the second one is I suppose the one that's stapled is the proposed budget for 2020, but fiscal year 26. So if you want, I can just run you down very quickly the year to date. Actually, do I do that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Membership dues, I actually made an error here. When we passed the budget, we assumed 14 cities. And the year-to-date actual, which ends December 31st, 2024, should really be 266,794 because Gilroy paid their dues in February.
Oh.
So it shouldn't really be reflected there.
Okay.
Holiday party, if you look at the back page, okay, so our summer membership event, it actually cost us nothing, and we didn't have to sell any tickets, so ticket sales are zero. The catering was paid by El Camino Health, and there's the amount, 7,000 plus. So because I had that $3,000, I kind of shifted it to the holiday party. I'm not sure how to do that because it's one fiscal year to another fiscal year. So the holiday party expenditures. So what we had budgeted and plus extra revenue was $9,682. That comes from ticket sales, plus the 3,000 that was budgeted, plus the 3,000 that we saved from the summer event. And then the expenses were $9,500. And I got the breakdown below. And so we try to break even every year and we came very close to $839.
That's good.
But I was just wondering, my question is, should I calculate in-kind support from now on? Like when things are donated to us, like for example, the $7,000, the catering, what is?
I don't think we can guarantee that we'll get in-kind support. It's basically a budget deferral,
Yeah.
although
We budget for it.
although my city manager is previous finance director and probably can give us a lot of.
Most of it's known.
Yeah,
Okay.
you hope. Budget.
Right.
Director Bruin just walked in.
And hello, and if I can just add on regarding this specific subject, so we're hoping that we can encourage other sponsorships for the events this year. Obviously, so I'm not sure if anyone has any feelers out already, but this is something we should definitely pursue to help with those costs. Also, everyone knows this, costs have risen very significantly. Catering, venues, just to have a place, both have gone up dramatically. So we're definitely thinking that we need to increase the budget for the special events and try and make it a priority really to pursue sponsors for these events. Anyways.
And I'll just quickly add from there. And what worked well for us last year with the summer event was the topic was mental health. El Camino has a lot of respect for our organization. We all have relationships with them. So it's actually an easy ask, right? We just made the phone call and they were on board to support it, and it was under $10,000. And I do think organizations like El Camino have a separate budget for things like that. So that's something to look for. What theme you're gonna have, is there an organization out there? And then for the summer event, it also worked out well. As Shali knows, we're based on the venue. We also had a good partner there who owns the building
For the winter event.
for the winter event.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
For the winter event, you have the entity that owns the building separate from the restaurant within the building. And so the entity that owns the building was supportive of us hosting an event at their building. And so they were the ones who did the in-kind contribution. We had to pay the restaurant full value. But that's how we were able to get some donation because of the owners of the actual building, not the renters, not the restaurant lease.
Understood.
Yeah.
We'll work on minimizing the costs as much as we can with the donated space or donated catering or whatever we can do. So,
And that's one of the good things about being a JTA now, that
yeah.
that's a lot cleaner than it was previously.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria.
Okay, I'll just run down the rest of this kind of quickly. When we passed the budget, the executive director's line item was for $120,000. My hourly rate hasn't changed to $102 an hour. I don't think it's gonna make that big of an impact, but I'm just letting you know. The clerk and IT support, we didn't hire anybody, so we didn't spend anything there. The bookkeeper, we're doing a little bit worse. We should be about half of this, because we're the first 2 quarters. We're a little bit more than half. So we'll see how much.
Is that a carryover? Is that monthly or?
No, this is like
For the year.
4,800 for the year.
Right.
So I
Now,
figure she averages about 400.
is she only, but she's only doing monthly bookkeeping from a monthly standpoint, correct?
Yes, well,
And
it's,
we have a separate from an audit standpoint.
oh, yes, exactly.
That's what,
exactly,
okay.
yes. Our legal counsel, the first 2 quarters of the year costs about a third of the money that we budgeted for them. We have been keeping them busy with the PRA request. The CPA, the audit is in progress, so we haven't paid them yet. The website redesign, we haven't spent that yet,
Yeah.
and we have until June 30th before we use the money. Insurance, yeah, so the insurance came out to just slightly under 3,400. US Bank, I haven't seen any fees. So these were, some of these numbers I copied over from the previous acting executive director. Still trying to figure out what this Google Voice phone is. Bots, $216. Miscellaneous is really just office supplies, so it's really, actually it's printer paper.
Yeah.
I don't really spend anything else. Maybe name badges and maybe those tent cards. Oh, the conferences and education, that's still at 0, because I haven't spent anything there. We have an added expense because we were going to get rid of the storage unit. And we haven't, because part of that is also figuring out what our retention policy is. I actually don't know what I should throw away and what I should not throw away. There's some laptops there. I don't know if we can get information off of there. So I decided to add that. So that's why it's 0 in the 25 budget, and it's 900. California Special District Association membership, that's just.
So do you want me to, I have a quick question,
Yeah,
are you
please.
working with council on the retention policy?
That's-
Because we've talked about that, remember?
That's
Yeah.
right, and that was going to be, we can't talk, can we talk about it?
Later.
Well, no, it's not agendized.
I'll defer to Andrew.
We don't want to, we want to talk about the retention policy at a future date.
Okay.
Have you and Charlie and Janny talked at all about retention policy to this point?
We have talked a little bit about it, but as it's just a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, to be honest with you. We can come up with a policy sort of in a vacuum, but I would actually prefer to see what we have in terms of records, particularly in that storage unit, and then figure out what we actually have before we develop a policy. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I would actually prefer to go about it, actually see what we have on hand before we go ahead and set some rules. So, but we've talked about it a little bit.
For next month's executive meeting, let's at least
Okay.
bring that up in more detail, just agendize it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
And then just really quickly, going down to hospitality. I budget $200 per meeting for our board dinners, and I'm coming in just under that, so that's pretty good. The summer membership event and the holiday parties, we just talked about it, so there's. You see what the numbers are right there. And then technology and software, so we have credit card that I don't have access to. Because it's in Auden's name and Andy's name, and the credit card company won't let me cancel it. Because I am neither Auden nor Andy.
Okay,
So I'm like, I figure when that credit card expires, some of these people are gonna call me and say, hey, we need a new credit card on file. So
how do you pay it?
it gets paid automatically from our, I think it's on auto pay.
Okay,
So I do look at the thing. But so anyway, so that's, and then Gusto, they actually charge us $80 per month. I thought it was $80 for the year, but it's roughly $80 per month. So that was not itemized before, so I added that.
and Gusto is,
Oh, they do when we had employees, they did the payroll, and they figured out the payroll taxes, for contractors, because, we're giving them my bank information. So I just used them to pay me instead of writing me a check, or Baird and Driscoll, or our legal counsel. Okay. And then, if you want to move on to the proposed budget, this is what Elliot and I talked about. And we would like to propose that we keep membership dues flat. Main reason being that without Gilroy last year, we were able to meet all of our expenses. So I don't see why we would. And it's kind of a tough time.
yeah.
And-
Is it when T-Ness press that?
Jack come through the roof. Most popular president ever.
That's right. And then you just go, man, inflation.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And the ticket sales for the holiday party and the summer membership event, I just kept the ticket sales at 3,000 because that's pretty conservative. If you wanted to be skipped down to the expenses for the holiday party and the summer membership event, I increased the holiday party to an extra $1,000, exactly for what Director Scazola had outlined. It is getting more expensive. So.
Sure.
Okay, and then rest of this, it's pretty straightforward. I calculated, you can see what my calculations were on the far right column for my hours. Clerk and IT support, I kept it at 6,000. When I had a discussion with Auden about having them help us, perhaps, they didn't want to do it for $25 an hour. And they said that that was what they were paid, when they were still like in college or freshman in college. So then I thought, if we had someone, if we paid them $50 an hour, but for half the number of hours, we could get like quality is not the right word, but like a higher level person with a few more skills. Because mainly I really need them to help during the meetings and evenings.
Right.
To run the Zoom, to help with the dinner setup and everything, and then some light stuff, because I've kind of got a handle on this now, like posting stuff to the website. So those kind of things, that's what Auden used to do, and I don't
Right.
really need someone to do that. So I thought maybe if we got someone with a little bit of higher qualifications, we could pay them a little more, but for fewer hours.
Okay,
We'll see.
makes sense.
The bookkeeper. So I'd like to propose that we change that service and hopefully to the city of Sunnyvale. Is this enough information?
Yes,
Okay, I'll email it to you.
okay.
And we'll see how much that costs. Just arbitrarily, I put 7,500. That's right. I have no basis for that. Want to start?
We were kind of wondering also, and I'm not sure if you got the answer for this yet, but when it came to the payroll expense, would that be possible to wrap into the bookkeeping when it comes to the city of Sanibel and the
Oh, yeah,
possibility?
because then we can get rid of Gusto.
Mhm.
Is that going to be a payroll?
Yeah, well, we don't do it.
He is just, yeah.
I mean, I could actually write the checks out myself. So we could get
That's
rid of
true,
Gusto
too.
altogether.
Well, absolutely.
But that was, and that would, I was, we'll talk about that, because I think I would love to see, well, for one thing, you get control of the credit card. So you have no credit card for this organization?
That would be nice.
Debit card.
We have a debit card.
Yeah.
Okay, so you at least have that.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't really need a
It
credit.
would be nice to close the other one, just to
Yes.
clean up the books from that standpoint.
For sure.
But I was going to bring that up, then I'm like, okay, if that's all they're doing is cutting checks, cutting one check a month.
It's not
I
But
like-
you can't cut your own check. You're saying, are you talking about your check?
I'm talking about all the checks.
So at least for your check.
How do you have them issue the checks? Just
So, I go into Gusto online and I say, like, this is for me, and I put in 100 hours, it already has my hourly rate.
Huh.
And then I reference, in my invoice, and then I just hit the button, and in 3 days, it takes about 3 days for the money to come out of our account and to get transferred to me.
I see.
I think one thing you're gonna learn from the audit, because I was filling out the audit questionnaire, we should really have 2 people signing the checks. And right now it's just me.
Okay,
So if we do get rid of Gusto and depending on if we go with Sunnyvale, if I'm the one that's like under a certain amount, I'm comfortable writing the checks. But I think over a certain amount, someone should double sign it.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. And we can talk about that. Let's add that to a future meeting also, from the executive board standpoint.
Yeah, we do, we function as the fiscal agent for a couple outside entities, JPAs. So biggest one is Santa Clara Valley Urban Runoff Pollution Prevention Program, super.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
so I just need to look at the details. We probably need an agreement that was approved by the whole board. But at that point, it takes care of the control problem because we would be cutting, Sunnyvale would be cutting the checks and that automatically goes through a workflow that gets double approval. And then we'd be reporting out financial statements with each, either whatever case the board wanted.
In the JPA, did we list a city as the fiscal agent? I thought, I know we had talked about it. Did we pre-identify a fiscal agent or no? We may have. So even if we did, I thought we did. I remember the discussion.
Yeah.
We did it.
We didn't.
Okay.
I think because it rotates by the board.
Okay. So it's whoever the president is.
Right.
Okay.
So that brings up exactly the question I was thinking. Are you proposing that Sunnyvale becomes the permanent fiscal agent?
Yeah,
And I'm open to the idea. I'm just
yes,
clarification.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Great.
yeah.
And then we get rid of Gusto as well, because then we're combining.
Yes.
all the
Yeah, and then I
services.
need to understand the
Streamline.
structure of the payroll, but, yeah, I will say, I mean, I wouldn't do it for free, but it wouldn't be expensive either.
We would have a separate contract with the city of Sunnyvale.
Yeah,
That would be
right.
independent of
Sure,
cities associations.
Right.
of course.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
yeah, so we
that
do,
answers the-
on the other ones that we do the bookkeeping for, they are infinitely more complex. So this is so straightforward, I don't think I'm not gonna have to add any additional much additional staff time, or there's not a lot of invoices being paid, there's just not a lot of activity. And I think we can also, we'll check in, but I think we can lump it into our outside audit contract too, and maybe save a little bit of money on the annual audit for the
Great.
association.
That would be great.
Thank you.
But well, I don't wanna promise anything until I get actual numbers done.
I'll just say a big thank you. All of this would be very helpful, especially in view of what Shelley mentioned earlier about keeping membership dues flat. And I think for the next couple of years, so that we can retain our 15 cities,
Yeah.
just become more stable. It's a good idea to keep the membership dues flat, and also those summer and holiday party events. The more we can cut elsewhere, I'm just thinking of
Absolutely.
saving every dollar there.
I'm all
So
about
big
that.
thank you.
Director Scazola and I were also saying we don't want to look crass by increasing the holiday party
Right.
budget because it just looks like taking your money to throw a big party, but it has to be a little bit of a balance.
Right.
Right?
So one thing that's not in here that I haven't broached with the city manager, so I'm sorry about this. But I haven't broached it with the imminent, let's say, incoming president. Pre-COVID, Sunnyvale always hosted the city's association meetings.
Mhm.
Now, at that time, it required 0 staff. It was basically just take over the conference room Thursday night, and now, of course, there's setup and all this other stuff that wouldn't normally be the case. For the rest of this year, I'm president and we're hosting. That being said, as the incoming president, in other cities like Cupertino hosts SVCE, and SVCE pays for that service. Do we want to put something in the budget, at least a placeholder for now, not knowing what the city manager might charge for the first 6 months, for the first 6 months of 2026? Because the problem is we're talking about a fiscal year.
Yeah.
And so it's like for the rest of this year, the rest of this calendar year, not a problem. But for the first 6 months, and I've heard from other members that they like as much as Los Altos was wonderful, but we heard, it's like the extra 20 minutes to get to Los Altos was a challenging.
Yes.
And not that the Sunnyvale is perfect, but do we want to add a calendar or a budget item to say,
So are you saying Sunnyvale wouldn't allow us to have the facilities for free?
no? That is what I'm saying. Because it requires staff. It'd be a whole other thing, although even then, we charge. But now post-COVID, especially to have this meeting to do this, to do the scan of the conference or the building after, there's a whole bunch of other things that because we have this meeting here need to be met. Not executive as much as the board meeting, which is until 9.
Yeah, it's primarily the hybrid, we have to,
Yeah.
you have to set it up and tear it down.
Right.
Yeah, but, we can,
We can talk about it, but I think I conceivably adding that as an agenda item, and yes, it adds more to the cost, but I do think that from a board standpoint,
Yeah.
Not that your city hall can't,
And we have it.
or community center can't handle that,
So
but
I was just going to, so let me respond to
Yeah.
that. It's a great suggestion. I have been thinking about it. A couple of things have happened. Margaret made a comment, Supervisor Abikoga, when she came into our council meeting, joint session with her. She made a comment that the conference room we were in reminded her of when the cities association was being hosted by Saratoga.
Oh, by
Some years by Saratoga, in the conference room. So at some point, Saratoga did host it when Manny was mayor or president of this. That's what Margaret said. I don't know. In any case, that is the only, that conference room is set up for Zoom and everything, no problem. It's wonderfully set up for that. For a board meeting, it is just about adequate in terms of size. And I was supposed to check that because I thought of that question one day, and I've forgotten the capacity. Everything else, for some reason, we have given over facilities management to the Scott Research, correct? Which means, yes,
it would be additional cost for the city.
yes,
Okay.
so it's a challenge. What I'm trying to say is, it's a challenge even for us. And so I'll just leave it at that. You get
Okay.
the gist.
So,
So, and these are great facilities here, just fabulous. If the budget can accommodate, I think it is worth exploring, even though I would hate the extra commute. The easy meetings, that place, if we can hold it early enough, that's a very good location and it's a nice conference room.
So you were saying that you
Executive-
do the
executive
EC
meeting would be
meetings
there,
there
yeah.
and then do
Yeah.
the board. Can I, so just a follow up, and honestly, I will see what the quote is. But whatever you guys decide, I think that's, you know. What I don't see in the budget is our reserve.
Oh.
And remember
Oh,
the
that's right.
policy,
Correct.
and so I see 47,000 and I want some of that to be put aside.
What was it?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
in total, what was it, I'm trying to remember.
but, and we're also double billing, the web services, because I don't think it'll be done
Right,
in the
right.
next 4 months
Yeah.
or 3 months now.
For what we booked for the fiscal
So,
year.
so it's double counted
Got it.
here.
Yeah.
So at least conceivably, some of this, we have savings in this fiscal year that will roll over, similar to the party and now how it's used. And so there's always that audit of the books as well as kind of, settling between the two. That's like, well, this wasn't done in this fiscal year, it's moving it over. Yeah.
Right. So how much do we have in the reserve, and are we taking any of this amount and put it in our reserve?
And what other information can I?
Oh, we don't have that, yes.
Yeah, so, and what other information can I add to the budget? Because I will be sharing this with the city managers. They would like to see it also, and I get their input, and then I send it to our board. Our board sees it in March for the first read. Then I take the city manager's input, our board members' input, and then I come up with something in April. And that's what we vote on.
Okay, so I think, yes, so the reserves, the room, whether or not we lose Gusto, but whatever the services, kind of a quote, a general quote, and maybe it's not exact, but it's an approximate quote from Mr. Kirby's staff.
Yes. We'll get to that.
And then just super quick, waiting for SDRMA to confirm what our insurance package is, how much it's gonna cost. And same thing for California Special Districts Association. And I I did add a line item for the storage unit, which was not there until we figured out what to do with it.
Hopefully we can resolve that by July 1st. But yeah, I would leave it in for now.
So I took notes on what you would like to see, so I don't know if we're supposed to go on. I put discussion and possible action on everything,
I know.
just.
I think we gave you general direction. I don't
Yes.
think we need to approve it from this standpoint. Any other comments from the directors? Sure.
One more critical thing is we are going to get back on the quarterly reports.
Yes.
Last year, obviously, was a unique situation, but we're gonna get back in line with that again.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Elliot, and
Thank you.
Of course.
Elliot, thank you.
And that's, I really enjoyed working with Director Susan.
Well, thank you. Likewise.
That's it for me with the budget.
Okay, any member of the public in person or remote to speak on this item?
Nope, no better.
Okay. Next up is identify potential speakers for 2025 and discussion of anyone that we have scheduled as well as upcoming.
So if I could share, I've had a few interesting conversations this week. So working backwards, yesterday I spoke to Clara Gross. Clara is with the joint venture, and then she does the events for Silicon Valley Clean Energy. She's the one who did our June event 2 years ago, when we did it with SVCE.
Yeah.
I thought she did a really lovely event. So she was saying that the REACH codes are, cities are starting to have to implement the REACH codes and whatever the new, I don't know, laws around them are, or the changes in it. So what she would like to do, what she's proposing, is that we co-sponsor an event, no money, just the publicity part, co-sponsor an event with San Mateo County, and possibly Cal Cities to do one big event, just to educate about what the new REACH codes are going to be.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. I also,
Codes that went in that are being proposed at a state level, or do you know?
Are they Berkeley law?
I'm trying to figure out. Right.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things happening there. One is, we do have, this is a year that we will be doing a new building code. So that's a whole thing by itself. And then there's obviously all of the different workarounds for the Berkeley case that different cities have employed. So I could see it being one or both of those, like, here are some model ordinances that you can use, or here's what's happening with building code and you should engage. So I'd be curious to know which of those it's supposed to be.
okay, I'll get some more concrete information from Clara. She did send me something, so
Okay.
I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
I did tell her what our priorities are for the year, and regarding public safety and disaster preparedness, Cara's done a lot of work with hazards, mitigating the hazards. She has worked on the Santa Clara County hazard mitigation plan or something like that, but she has a lot of different ways to kind of cut that topic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about is CERT trainings, which is very actionable and very practical.
But I think all of our most of our cities are have their own flavor of that, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
I can jump in on
Oh,
that.
yes, please.
So a couple of things. I just came straight from attending the first EOAC meeting, the Emergency Operations Area Council meeting. They meet every quarterly, and they meet every quarter. And the key thing today was fire concerns. And in fact, we had such an interesting conversation that the chair decided that he asked that it be brought back in the next meeting, which is May 22nd, I believe. And something that I found interesting, couple of observations. Alternate director Murli Srinivasan was there because Director Carmen was not there. And so Murli made a comment that he was not familiar with Genesis Protect, i.e. Zone Heaven, because all the cities that are using Santa Clara County Fire, we are constantly hearing a message from them. The first two things that residents need to do is sign up for Alert SCC and Genesis Protect. And then, of course, the other partners, the community-based organizations, and how do you plan for recovery and fuel management. And I'm working a lot through my city as well. So, and thirdly, I started my CERT training 2 nights ago. In fact, I have my second session after this. I'm headed there. So a couple of thoughts. I think there are a number of ways we could bring disaster preparedness, either as speakers or information sharing. Somewhere after the midpoint of the year, or maybe something a little bit in the summer. I don't know. I don't have clarity yet. But we could tie it if there are certain organizations or other volunteer organizations. How can we use them in case of a disaster. I don't have all the details yet, but there are a lot of angles that I'm hearing from different people that I've talked to. And I'll stop right there, or
Okay.
focus on fire itself.
Can I add something? Because Steve Preminger said to me, he and I have been talking about, so this is with my school board hat on. Don't forget the school districts, because we can play a role in disaster mitigation if something happens. And so what he'd like to do is get, cities, the school districts, the county, all of us together. Because the school districts, we have schools everywhere, and they could be used, I don't know, like in some sort of emergency shelter kind of a thing. So, yeah, so I was just thinking, if you decide to do something like that, Steve Preminger would be interested. And I think we could cast the net a little wider and bring some of our school district folks in. Is there
Yeah.
anything else, Dr. Wallace?
No, that was it. I am literally in the middle of gathering information in the last 8 days. And I think I'm pretty sure by the next meeting, I'll have a little more clarity and scheduling more meetings with other people, both at the county DOC, the Santa Clara County Fire, our law enforcement captain. But that's again through county sheriff's office. So even though they serve Los Altos, Hills, Cupertino, and Saratoga, they have a lot of information that they can pull from county sheriff.
Right.
Those are my thoughts.
I was just curious if anybody knew of any pledges from councils, like having at least one council member per city perhaps, or something of that measure, like pledge to go through the CERT program themselves. Has that ever happened in the
I
past
don't
that
think
you're
there's
aware of?
pledges, I think, at least for our council, and usually it's an act, if you're active in your community, often you went through it either while you're on council or before you got on council. So,
Sure.
yeah, I don't think so, but that's something to bring up.
Or you may want to do a council challenge.
Yes, exactly.
Cities against
That's
cities,
what I'm
you can
talking
have-
about.
I- I-
You saw where I was going.
Every-
Who had the most
Yeah.
people go through CERT, like who's exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Elliot.
I like it.
Great.
And
Do
just,
you want to bring that up in the board meeting?
Then bring it up, or you bring it up, or, so, anyway,
I
that's
can
good.
do that.
Okay.
Either
just
way,
to
but
close
yes,
the loop
I
on what
encourage you.
Director Fruin had asked
Yeah.
about SBCE.
Yes.
My conversation with Clara.
Yes, okay.
Clara said that the new edition of the state building codes will be adopted by the cities. So SVCE and Peninsula Clean Energy in San Mateo County are working together again this cycle to offer a common set of REACH code amendments to their member agencies. Where SVCE plans to program an event to raise awareness of the process.
Okay. Okay, so they are model ordinances, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
just finally, super quickly, I had a conversation with our community
Trick.
planning collaborative consultants.
Yeah.
As you know, the REAP funding is, running out and cities are gonna start putting in their own money. And so he would need to know by the beginning of the third quarter of this year, so beginning of July, what cities are interested in being a part of this. So that would be so I think that's something I need to talk to the city managers with,
Right.
because he's given me like,
I think it's important to bring it up both at our board meetings so that councils can go above their city managers as well as and the city managers meeting, because sometimes it takes nudging from
oh yeah.
this body to go back to each of them. So
Would you like me to invite them to come speak in March?
let's look at the calendar,
Oh,
March or
okay.
April, one of the two, and we'll see where we stand on time.
And I know that this is not agendized, but the last thing that I spoke to with our consultants. So our website doesn't offer a lot of functionality. So there's a section of our website that's for the planning department. And they want to do something that's more dynamic, that has more resources. They can put videos on there. As you know, we can't post videos on our website. So they were thinking about making up their own website. And I said, well, I really want this under the Cities Association umbrella because
Yeah.
it's our thing. So that's when they offered to revamp our website for us. And so for their website person can come and talk to our website subcommittee
Yeah.
and lead them through a discussion like what they want, to understand what they want. And then she can come and give us a proposal.
Okay, we'll talk about that offline. Okay,
So that's it.
and so any additional speakers, and we had good governance, so we already have the kind of a mid-year event as far as that's concerned. I don't know if there's anything from a Cal City standpoint or, you know, you kind of go through the topics. So good governance was there, which disaster preparedness, which we already have a lot on, immigration and ICE preparedness. Can you talk to Steve Preminger because of the rapid response? I know there's been multiple events that have already been happening, you know, from different within different cities, either sponsored by the county and having them come in and that rapid response team and talk to us and basically say, raise their hand and say, we can go to each of your cities and do it on again. So talk to Steve Preminger on that. Housing and homelessness. We have the housing collaborative. I think that's probably at least a good start for that.
Yeah.
You know, from a county standpoint, they're funding that outreach and what they're doing is a whole bigger question. But I think that'll be part of the monthly or the updates from Steve. Childcare. So our last ones were childcare and
Federal response.
The federal.
federal response. Sorry, I skipped for some reason. I deleted that last. But the federal response, I think, is just Steve on a monthly basis, and I think childcare becomes one of the ones that is important, but we'll figure out speakers. So I think that is important. And what? Older adults. Younger adults. Okay. Yes. Older adults was there.
I thought it.
Oh,
Yes, it was.
Are we gonna combine mental health with older adults?
Housing. There was
Or
housing.
housing.
Yeah.
Let's say housing.
That's right.
It was housing. There were a
Yes.
couple of these, Kitty and someone else who
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Senior housing.
It was and Bybee and Kitty.
That's right.
Yeah.
So senior
Great
housing.
memory.
There should be. We should have some issue, but we'll talk, let me think offline on that. Any other comments about speakers and any other some people had, any other?
I just know that Supervisor Abicova's office is interested in speaking to us at some point in the future, at least based upon an extensive conversation I had with Marico, so.
Okay, good. Well, is it for LAC or for?
No, just in general, to the board, obviously, given Margaret's history with the organization, but also the fact that the G5 covers so many of the cities that are in the association.
Okay, good. Okay. Any member of the public, remote or in person, to speak on this item?
No, nobody.
Okay. We'll move on to our next item. Future meeting topics, discussion and possible action. So is it this meeting or is it other board meeting? Right, I'm trying
Oh,
to.
that's a good question.
That's like for this meeting, we already kind of talked about retention policy, I think.
Yeah,
You know, for our board meeting, I would like to talk about website again, you know, just to, not specifically here, we can just bring it up to the board. We don't need to do that. And just to get people's feedback and input, and whether or not there's the subcommittee, some of the subcommittee members are no longer part of the organization. So let's start from scratch and just bring that up. But we'll talk about that agenda. Wait. Future meeting. Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that. Any other kind of future topics for this or the board meeting that you have, that anyone has? Okay. No member of the public wishing to speak in person or remote. Okay. Review of the March 13th meeting agendas for LAC.
Okay. So you should have a draft already. Shelley, do we know yet if CDBG is able to present?
I'm sorry, I need to reach out to Mountain View.
Okay, okay.
I'll take a note of that.
So that one is one that we do have to clarify. Senator Becker has confirmed for the 13th.
Okay.
Assemblymember Pellerin is not able to do the 13th, so I will have to strike that.
What's usually one?
Yeah, it's easier to do one, although I looked at the agenda from last year and we did have two, and there were a couple of times that we did two and it was successful.
Right.
It felt a little rushed sometimes. Yeah.
whoever was available, that was kind of, so it
Yeah.
was not intentional to every time. We were reaching out, we were scrambling, frankly,
yeah.
reaching out to 4 and keeping our fingers crossed, not
Somebody would do it, yes.
only 2 at the most.
They
Yeah.
don't say yes at the same time.
Yes, and because there were, I think there was once we couldn't get anyone, so we accommodated them.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
And then obviously 3 is contingent on whether CDBG is able to present. I mean, I could do one myself, but that is a lot of work. And CPPG knows what they're doing. So, and then the last early bill review and discussion for potential action. Obviously, I spent a lot of time with bills after they finally were posted on the 21st. That was the deadline for everyone to get them in. And tried to focus on a sort of range of things that came out of our discussion at the last LAC and also at the board meeting. I am not yet done with that review. One thing that I can tell you that is interesting and that will be very helpful to have Senator Becker there for is that there's almost a dozen bills that have to do with the marina process and the housing element, and that seemed to be a very strong point of issue for a number of people, especially when it came to things that they felt were unfunded mandates. And so the unfortunate thing is most of them are spot bills. They have no contents that are of any use. And I had to reach out to the individual author offices to try to find out, do you have an idea of what you want to do? Right. Senator Becker, though, has one, and he has already been proactively reaching out to folks in his district to try to find out, okay, what was your process like? What could be better? There is at least one bill already out of Southern California that has some clear indication of a desire for a longer timeline in advance so that you can go through this process perhaps better thought out and with more opportunity to get feedback from HCD. And also to qualify the nature of the feedback that you would get from HCD so that it's more useful. But that's really the only one that had any content at this point. Everything else is just sort of, everyone wants to do something. It's not clear what that something is. So I wanted to put them all out on the table and have a little bit of a discussion of, okay, what were some of the things that you thought were particularly problematic? Maybe that's something that Senator Becker would value. At least put all of them on the watch list so that, you know, as they get contents in the future, we can bring them back for further discussion. So that's one key area. And then I tried to look at a number of the other things that are at least focus areas for the board. Not coming up with a whole lot yet that is anything other than a spot.
And from to give you feedback, so in general, and we weren't able to talk about after the last meeting, the priorities of the board aren't critical. So the LAC is its own body to a certain degree. So, and I was only half, in the room because I wasn't. Our member didn't show up. Our member will show up at our next meeting. But
I've been informed.
But did you ask for bills that the members wanted to track or no?
I did ask for them to provide input on types of bills that they were interested in. And that was something that came very quickly to the surface was the issue of the regional housing needs assessment process, the housing enrollment process. So I focused my initial examination on that thing. And it does seem like there's a lot of interest from the legislature on the topic. There was also just sort of very basic stuff on unfunded mandates, but it seemed to all relate back to that topic when you listened to the commentary from the members.
And one of the things that when I ran it, I think we did this last year, right? Was asking everyone for their favorite 2 to 5 bills. And that becomes at least it's like understanding there's this bigger topic, which HCD I think has been a concern for all of our community. But to just have an item say, bring your favorite bills to either this board meeting or start the next LAC meeting, whether or not you announce it here or, or have that full list. So it's like announce it here or announce it beforehand, announce it there. this is what we have so far, and you have until the April meeting to finalize what your favorite bills are. Or the,
Yeah,
or the
that-
ones that you're worried about.
That makes sense, also just because so much doesn't have content.
So, the way and this will vary because, it's the start of a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
So you were at the beginning of that. For me, last year, the bills were moving forward. And there was a lot of interest from certain members. So the way I did it, which worked out for me last year, was to ask them to send via email the list of bills to Shali and to me. And to be very clear, it doesn't necessarily mean this bill will be discussed and we'll take a position because we are looking at the whole. All the cities together.
Exactly.
That's one thought. And then I have a thought on something else. Should I just jump
Yeah,
in there?
go right ahead.
Okay, so the CPPG, if they are not available, they were phenomenal. I hope they can come, but if they are not, and we shouldn't really be calling Carly again, but she was really good. They saved us. She saved us so many
Yeah.
times last year. I'm just saying this is the right time of the year, especially when we don't have the bills.
Yeah.
To have that professional.
Yeah.
If we can't get CPPG, we have 2 weeks left from today, really. So,
CPPG, I have to go through Mountain View because it's their consultant. And so they want to, I guess, keep tabs on what their consultant is doing for it. So that's why I did call them directly and then I got a phone call from Mountain View. Saying, we need to go through us.
so if it's not going to work out, I'm just looking at the scenario, you're ready to send the agenda 10 days from today. And if it doesn't work
Carly.
out, then what?
Carly was really good.
I'm raising the question.
Yeah, is there, so basically the question is there someone else who can do that something then?
To cover the same
Yeah,
topics or something, overview of the legislative bills, and it looks like. No, she was great.
It was very
essential,
helpful.
yeah.
My preference would be CPPG. Carly was phenomenal as well. And Carly was very comfortable when I reached out to her even later on. I didn't have to go through the, yeah, even though that's how I got introduced. You're strongly grateful.
Anyone else?
Just as a matter of cleanliness, since we would presumably be, approving the draft agenda, if we're not able to fill it with CPPG, could we substitute someone else? Without a problem.
You can say legislative update.
And you can figure that out.
Yeah.
Between now.
Like if we ran off and found Townsend.
Yes,
that'd be-
Correct.
exactly.
Should we then, whenever we make the motion, remove CPPG there?
Are we sure that they're not going to speak?
We're not sure if they're not.
So let,
Whichever works
you
out.
know, it's between Shelley and JR to.
Okay.
Works for me.
As long as we all have that understanding, just.
Yeah, the day of, when the agenda goes out, it might change, yes. Okay, and then as far, anything else with the LAC agenda?
No, that's it.
Okay, and then as far as the board meeting agenda, I think. Did the Bay Area Host Committee give an idea of how long they needed?
Yeah, so I spoke to them.
Yeah.
And of course, they confirmed and I told them, I think this is what I got from our last executive committee meeting. We said 30 to 35 minutes, with 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A in there, and they said that was totally fine.
Good.
That worked for them, so.
Okay, and then before LAC, actually before the Measure A oversight, let's add a web item.
Oh, sure.
That it looks, ultimately would probably be 15 minutes tops, just to get people's input for subcommittees. And then conceivably, I'll lead that, or one of my council members who's at least an alternate to this committee, or to one of our many committees is interested in leading that effort. And then so one of the things that we talked about is conceivably putting a standing item for Steve Preminger. So ask him if he's interested in that. Before we,
Yes.
conceivably, I think he's happy to speak And, whatever the hot topic is, I think our organization wants to hear more from him
Yeah.
than we want to tell him. Because it's that sort of thing. I think that's worthwhile. And then, and one more thing. So yeah, so put measure, and for measure A, can you reach out to Office of Supportive Housing and see if they want to send anyone? Often for the, let's say, the appointee from this organization updates, often the director or at least a representative from that committee, from a staff standpoint, wants to come and speak. I'm happy to do it. But and I already have updated, taken their last presentation and cut it down. So, I think it's fine.
And just to confirm, so the order would be the draft budget, the website, and then the standing item?
Budget, then website, and then the appointee. Oh, the standing item?
Yeah.
Put it earlier. So Steve always stays to the end, but I think make it earlier. So make it just before Measure A oversight.
Okay.
So, and hopefully we'll see if if they can't attend or if they don't want to attend, they can attend remotely and give their own presentation.
So,
Yeah.
if this is gonna be a standing item, just like how we have the standing item from the city manager and the standing item from Shali, I feel like we should put, like,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
We should move it all
But yeah,
together.
We always know those three are gonna present at the end.
Yeah.
After LAC, you mean?
Whatever.
No, it makes sense. It makes
They're
sense.
the standing items.
Yes,
Yeah.
So Shali doesn't have to ask us every.
actually, that's true.
Or do we?
That's a good point. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so move it just before the city managers. That move Steve Preminger just before the city manager section. He stays to the end anyway, so it's fine.
And hierarchy wise, it's makes sense, LAC update, county update, city managers update, then cities association update.
Absolutely.
It just flows by.
Yeah. And then Joyce.
And then Joyce.
Hopefully Joyce. Okay. Any other comments about the main board agenda? Good, thank you. Any member of the public in person or remote to speak on this item?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to our next item.
To vote to.
Oh, yes, we need a motion
So move. With the amendments
With
discussed.
the,
for the
Yeah.
amendments.
For both agendas.
Second by Wally.
Okay. Motion to approve the March 13th, 2025 Black and board agendas with the amendments discussed by Flagger, second by Walia. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you. And next up is Santa Clara County City Manager Association update.
I don't have any update today. We didn't meet since the last executive meeting update we gave.
Okay, thank you. And executive director update.
I have just been in this little small conflict request, which is why I was not able to do the normal stuff that I would do. So I apologize for that again. But that's coming along. And so, and I have to say, Andrew and Janny are helping me with it, which is really great.
Thank you, Andrew. And pass the things on to Janny too. I know. Any other comments or questions to Sean?
just a comment, not necessarily to Shali, just to the group. I heard that at the EOAC meeting that I just came from, that this morning to the Board of Supervisors, I believe Dr. Sarah Cody of the health team, somebody presented three key things. And the first most important is in the last 20 years, this is continuing to be a really bad flu season. So if we can share with our residents, if you haven't gotten a flu shot, it is not too late. Please go in. So that's the one thing I wanted to do.
And pass that on to Steve to,
Oh, sure.
that Steve should bring that up at our next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just for the sake of clarity, Shelley, the PRA that you're talking about is the one involved in the selection committee.
Yes.
Our first PRA that I can remember.
Welcome to the fun of PRAs.
Yeah,
Oh, my gosh.
It's a learning experience. There.
anything else? With that, we will adjourn the meeting at 5:39. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Well done.
1 hour all. We're no longer streaming.
No, we're no longer.
Just checking.